YouTube, what's going on, man? It's your main man, Markel, and I'm back. Give y'all another story, man. Y'all check in. I got saved at a fairly young age. And really, like, knowing what I know now, I didn't know a lot about Christianity past what they traditionally teach you if you from the South. So like most people, I got saved to get something from God. And at the time, I didn't even realize that my vision of him was skewed. So I didn't think of him as a Lord and Savior, which we say he is all the time. It was more so a thing where I just saw God as somebody who could help me out in my situations, whatever I'm going through. And essentially, the bad things that I was involved in or the things that I struggled with or wanted to get out of, he would just rescue me from that. So in college, I was still searching for that. Like, how can I still maintain myself and be cool and be a Christian like the people that I at the time had knew were Christian? When I first got saved, I was solo. And I give you all this background story because it paints the picture of where my mind was at. So I was still, I knew I was saved, but I would still have tendencies, right? Especially in undergrad, you know, I was somewhat known, you know. So I had certain temptations calling me. I'm still like having premarital sex. And I never, ever planned on stopping that. That just wasn't something I was going to do. But at the same time, it was because I just was never, you know, when my dad had the sex talk with me, he was like, look, when you have sex, because you're going to before you get married, you're my son, my blood is in you, just wrap up type thing. So not having premarital sex was just never an idea that I was introduced to. I was still doing those things. And I knew once I got saved that stuff was wrong. And I was trying in my own power and will strength to stop doing those things. Like, yo, I'm not going to have sex. I'm not going to do X, Y, Z, whatever. But I can never master it. You know what I'm saying? I can never master it. So that confused me because I'm like, y'all thought when you get saved, you know, the Bible say, you know, that man becomes a new being. Old things are past and all things become new. So I'm thinking in my mind, like, all right, once I get saved, and I really mean it, like I'm really trying to be saved, really live my life right, all these things are going to stop. And they did not. I guess in my head, I thought some magical switch was going to turn on and everything was going to stop, right? But it didn't. So I'm like, all right, well, but I didn't know at the time that you have to actively grow and pursue your relationship with Christ. And when Jesus called his followers, when he said, pick up your cross and follow me, essentially what he was saying was pick up your cross, your angst, your hang-ups, your habits, those bad things that you do, shoulder them, make the sacrifices to get rid of them and follow me. Not to glory, but to be crucified. In the same way, I'm going to be crucified and die to your flesh. And those are things that you have to do as a person. No one can do them for you. Jesus ain't going to turn no switch. While he can, you have to work out your own salvation. And every day I will read Nehemiah. For some reason, I will always open my Bible to Nehemiah and read the story of Nehemiah. And essentially, I looked at that story a certain way. Nehemiah was an Israelite who, at the time, you know, the Israelites, they were captive in Babylon, and then they were able to exile and go back to Jerusalem and rebuild the city. Nehemiah helped with that stride by rebuilding the wall. And he essentially faced a lot of obstacles in doing so, even after getting the king's blessing, but he had to stay on the wall. And every time I would read that, the only thing that would come to my mind is stay on the wall, metaphorically, stay in that position where you're doing God's work. You know you're doing God's business. And even though things are going to come, you can pray, you can fast, you can do all these things, but that's not going to change the fact that things are going to still come and try to pull you away from that. And that doesn't mean that God isn't present or that you're not saved, but it's an opportunity for you to still choose God and stay on the wall, right? So that's what I would get from that. Takeaway for the day. Even though you're saved, you still will be tempted. You're still going to be tempted. You're still going to have things that you have to pull yourself away from, just like any other person would, because you're a human being. That doesn't make you any less saved. What it is, it's an opportunity to choose Christ. And in choosing Christ, your relationship with Christ goes deeper because you learn how to give up more. But what Jesus is requiring is that you, yourself, that thing that you know, not think, you know internally is keeping you away from him. He's waiting for you to give it up. Out of love for him, not obligation, love, right? Grow your relationship with God. Physically take it upon yourself to sacrifice those things that will make you closer to him. And you have to do it yourself. That's what that Bible verse means when it says, you yourself, take off the weight that so easily besets you. You know what I'm saying? You do that. Because God ain't put it on you most of the time. He loves you and he's willing to wait for you and has grace and mercy to help you out. But you got to do that thing yourself. It don't make you less of a Christian because you lust. You deal with pornography, lust, drinking, rage, fits of anger, whatever your thing is. That don't make you less of a Christian. If you do believe you're saved, you are. However, you have to walk in that. You are a child of the King. You just got to act like it, right? So that's a mindset change. I just want to share a little bit of my testimony. We'll be back with another banger. Peace out.